Hey everybody, hello. We're going to start the review portion of the meeting. We have resolution 914008, resolution to read 2014 city market budget by title. 400B, resolution to adopt 2014 city market budget. 403, ordinances on second reading. Ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 10-16, Stopping, Standing, Parking, Section 1016-250, Schedule 45, Passenger Drop-Off and Pickup Zone, Livingston Avenue. 404, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 1016, stopping, standing, and parking, section 1016-20, schedule 24, no parking at any time, Comstock Street. 405, orders to adjust the rates of compensation for school crossing guards in the city of New Brunswick. Ordinance for discussions on first reading, there are none. Resolutions. Resolution 401, approve agenda amendments. 402, approve payroll. 403, authorize refund for redeemed tax sale certificates. 404, approve payment for emergency procurement water utility. Repair, replacement, installation of membrane modules at the water treatment plant with Allied Construction Group Incorporated, not to exceed $36,087.14. Purchase order D72555. 405, approve payment for emergency procurement water utility. Roof repairs at the water treatment plant, membrane building, and high lift electrical building with Lot Home Improvement or LA Home Improvement?
LA.
Thank you. LA Home Improvement Contractors doing businesses as Marion and Jacobson General Contractors, not to exceed $6,815. Purchase order D72163. 406, a resolution to adopt a plan to limit and regulate the use of Bigelow Park on football days. 407, authorize application, execution, acceptance of grant. New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety for Drunk Driving Enforcement Fund Grant. 408, approve award of contract with Schiff and Goldman doing business as Maximum Quality Foods to furnish and deliver food products for the Senior Citizen Resource Center. Term is 12-month period starting on September 4th, 2014, ending September 3rd, 2015, not to exceed $22,500. 409, approve payment for emergency procurement water utility. For SCADA improvements for the water treatment plant, process optimization with Enterprise Automation Incorporated, not to exceed $187,860. Purchase order D68673. 410, approved payment for emergency procurement water utility. Additional upgrades for the new SCADA system at the water treatment plant with Enterprise Automation Incorporated, not to exceed $8,298. Purchase order D72227. 411, approve amendment of resolution R081407. to pay additional legal fees in the amount of $773.50 to Mitzner and Mitzner for police officer Brad McDowell in the matter of Deloche versus police officer Brad McDowell from $15,549.50 to $16,323. 412, approve amendment of resolution R081406 to pay additional legal fees $518.50 to Mitzner and Mitzner. Police officer Andrew Weiss in the matter of Rodriguez, police officer Andrew Weiss from 5228 to 574650. 413, approved chapter 159 budget, insertion Rutgers State University New Brunswick. Neighborhood control team expansion amount, $130,000. 414, approved chapter 159 budget insertion, State of New Jersey, Department of Law and Public Safety. For Safe and Secure Communities Program, the amount is $60,000. 415, approved Chapter 159 budget insertion, State of New Jersey Department of Agriculture. For 2014 Summer Food Service Program, the amount is $191,719.52. 416, approved Chapter 159 budget insertion, State of New Jersey Department of the Treasury. For Alcohol Education Rehabilitation and Enforcement Fund, Alcohol Education Rehabilitation Fund, DWI, the amount is $2,481.37. 417, a resolution certifying review of 2013 annual audit. 418, authorize corrective action plan. 419, approve request for use of city property requested by New Brunswick Recreation, Raritan River Festival Committee and City Market for location in Boyd Park for annual Raritan River Festival Date is September 28, 2014, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 420, approve authorization to advertise, furnish and deliver one digital video enhancement system for the police department, specification number 392-14P. 421, approve amendment of 2014-2015 CBDG Consolidated Action Plan. Reason to allocate additional funds for crosswalk improvements in CDBG eligible areas. Amount is $47,005.00. 422, approve award of contract, Garden State Highway Products, 2014 furnish and deliver regulatory signs. The specification number 852-14, not to exceed $34,183.07. 423, approve award of contract with Z Brothers Concrete Contracting Incorporated for Hamilton Street roadway improvements. Specification number 845-14, not to exceed $628,448.38. 424, approve relaxation of the city noise ordinance requested by Attila's Home Improvement for reason sidewalk work at 91 Baird Street. Dates were Saturday, September 6th and September 13th, 2014. Alternate date, Saturday, September 20, 2014. Time is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 425 is pulled at the request of the engineer. 426, approve relaxation of the city noise ordinance requested by Sky High Erectors and Equipment. Place crane in parking lot at 501 George Street to hoist HVAC equipment off the roof of the J&J building. The date is Saturday, September 20, 2014. Alternate date, Saturday, September 27, 2014, October 4th, 2014. Time is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 427, authorized release of site performance guarantee in the amount of $324,758 to Matrix New Brunswick Land LLC for Matrix Upper Lot Urban Renewal LLC, application number PB 2012-14, block 117.01, lot 3. 428, approve amendment of resolution R 081432, change order number 1 with Silva's Mechanical Service for boiler replacement in City Hall building. The amount is $1,092.95. Approval of this change order will not constitute any increase of 20% or more of the original amount. 429 is pulled at the request of the city clerk. 430, approve authorization to advertise the Weston's Mill Sewage Pump Station roof replacement, specification number 862-14. 431 is pulled at the request of the city clerk. 432, approve request for solicitation of funds requested by Rutgers University Dance Marathon. Dance Marathon 2015 to benefit the Grace Peaks Foundation. The dates October 10, 11, 12, 2014, December 5, 6, 7, 2014. Times are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Locate George and Albany Streets, Easton Avenue, Somerset Street, George and Barrett Street, George and Church Street, Easton Avenue, Hamilton Street, Riders Landing, Dudley Road, George Street and Commercial Avenue, George Street and Nickel Avenue. 433, advise and consent to the Board of Ethics appointment. Name, Reverend Joseph Cooper, expires December 31st, 2015. That is it. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Council Vice President Egan.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Garlotti and Council President Escobar is absent.
Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been complied with and satisfied, and that the annual notice, which gave sufficient notice of the time and place and conduct of all public meetings of the Municipal Council of the City of New Brunswick, has been filed with the City Clerk, has been placed on an appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall in Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspaper of the City of New Brunswick, namely the Home News Tribune. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for all our men and women serving our armed forces overseas, and all our men and women who have lost their lives in battle, in any war. Okay. Approval of the minutes from July 2nd.
Motion. Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. Okay, we're going to go right to the resolution for the city market budget, Mr. Council.
Yes, Council President, what you need at this point is a motion to approve the resolution indicated as A on your agenda to read the particular budget by title. Once that resolution is adopted, then we go to the second resolution. It's my understanding that we do need to get Councilmember Barlotti on the phone for the second one.
For the second one, yeah, okay. So resolution 400A, resolution to read 2014 city market budget by title. Motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
And Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. Okay, now we have resolution 400B. It's a resolution to adopt the 2014 city market budget. And to do that, to adopt the budget, we need a total of 4 council people. So we're going to call Councilwoman Barlotti on the phone.
While we do that, I'll just read the resolution.
Go ahead,
Council
please, thank you.
President. Yep. This is the resolution R-091400A by the Municipal Council, whereas NJSA 40:56-84 provides that the 2014 New Brunswick City Market, Inc. budget as advertised shall be read in full at the public hearing, or that it may be read by its title only if, at least 1 week prior to the date of hearing, a complete copy of the approved budget as advertised, A, shall be posted in a public place where public notices are customarily posted in the principal public building, and B, copies are made available to each person requesting same during said week and during the public hearing. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of New Brunswick that it is hereby declared that the conditions of NJSA 40:56-84 1A and 1B have been met, and therefore the budget for 2014 shall be read by title only. Adopted this evening by the council.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Well, do we have Councilmember Garlotti on the phone?
Councilmember Garlotti.
Here,
Can you identify yourself as to who you are?
I am Elizabeth Garlotti, council member, the city of New Brunswick.
Thank you. We can open the public hearing now.
Okay, does any public wish to comment on this particular resolution? Anyone from the public on the city budget for the city market? Seeing none?
Motion. Second.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Hi,
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Garlotti.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay, we have ordinance on second reading, 403. Ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general laws of the city of New Brunswick, vehicles and traffic, stop and standing parking, schedule 45, traffic drop-off, pickup zone, Livingston Avenue. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this particular ordinance? Anyone?
Forgive me, Mr. Council President, which, is this the pay raise?
No, this is the first one on the parking, the passenger drop-off.
The drop-off? Yeah, okay, I do have something to say. Charles Cradaville,
Don't you have your paperwork with you?
I'm working on it.
All right. Listen, I just want to let you know, Mr. Bradwell, this is fully enforced now, why I'm here. 5-minute rule. What does that mean? That means you can talk 5 minutes on this particular subject. When we go to the resolutions, you can talk 5 minutes on the resolutions. When we go to the open public portion of the meeting, you can talk 5 minutes then. You have, so that's a total of 15, maybe 15 minutes that you can speak tonight. So I'm just letting you know, it means this is a law that was adopted years ago in New Brunswick, but we haven't been enforcing it. I'm just letting you know that.
Thank you. Just a
You're welcome.
point of order.
Yes.
It's 5 minutes on each of the ordinances, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to know exactly how this drop-off and pickup zone will work. It's right up against the Red Shaw School?
Who can help me with that? Mr. Goulden? Thank you.
Yes, it's right in front of the Red Shaw School. Parents can drop their children off and then take off.
Right, is there a time limit?
There is no time.
Okay, and does the engineer feel it's going to be adequate for the number of kids that go to that school? It's only about, a short block, right?
This was actually presented and requested by the school board through the New Jersey Association that's funding the project. based on their review and recommendation, and this was proposed by us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment on this ordinance? Seeing none?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. Ordinance 404, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Stopping, Standing, or Parking, Schedule 24, No Parking Anytime, Comstock Street. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this particular ordinance? Seeing none?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. 405, ordinance to adjust the rates of compensation for school crossing guards in the city of New Brunswick. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this particular ordinance? Mr. Gravel, I forgot to tell you also, with the time limit, right up at this desk, right for your enjoyment, it'll be right there for you, so you don't think we're messing with the clock.
It's like a football game.
Like a football game,
Okay.
soccer game. This is a game, soccer game.
Not a game. No, so I do want to say that this is a good ordinance. I think it's high time the crossing guards get paid a little more, and I think hopefully it'll attract more people to the position. I do want to know, what are the requirements to be a crossing guard?
Mr. Lockman?
Clean background check. The PD does that routinely for anyone that they recommend for hire. The ability to work an hour or two in the morning and an hour or two in the afternoon. We would prefer New Brunswick residents. We don't entirely preclude those who live out of town, but we do try to encourage New Brunswick residents. This year we're trying something a little different. The Board of Ed is going to advertise any openings amongst the parents who have children at New Brunswick schools, and we're also looking at possibly interesting those who work hourly for the Board of Ed and might have these hours available. They've already would have gone through a scrutiny of background checks that the Board of Ed requires, but physically fit for the job. We're not putting people through physicals, but clean background check and New Brunswick residency is mostly important.
Where does one go to apply? If they wanted the job, where would they go to get the?
There's a unit of the police department that takes the application, reviews the applicant, does the background checks, makes a recommendation to City Hall for hire. But someone could certainly come into my office or the mayor's office and express an interest, and we point them in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will do my level best to let people know about that opportunity. I hope that we can fill all the spots for this school year. I do want to ask, though, it was said last week that Councilman Fleming expressed, a problem with people's backgrounds being checked for jobs. And I want to ask how he feels about the requirement for crossing guards to have their backgrounds checked.
I didn't express a problem with people's backgrounds being checked. I expressed a problem with people's backgrounds being checked decades ago. And it depends on, everybody has some type of youthful indiscretions. If we were to check everybody's background in this room, I don't know who would come up clean completely all the time. So when we say clean background checks, it depends on what they had done. Obviously, if it's somebody that had, especially working in the school system, if it's somebody that had a problem with children, they had anything like that, that's an automatic, red light right there. Or it depends on what they had done and what the situation was. I still do, and I still stand on that, on people who go into somebody's background 10, 15, 20 years, which I feel like is irrelevant today, unless there was a serious felony or something like that, which shouldn't preclude them from employment.
Thank you for that. I do want to ask then, would conviction in someone's past from decades ago disqualify them from being a crossing guard?
That's very hypothetical.
I mean, it was said there's a clean background check is required, not a clean last 5 years.
I think every case is subject to its individuality. I can't answer that. I mean, which crime are you talking about? Which ones are, I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the person who would be in charge of the background checks. I mean, Mr. Laughlin seemed to say there's somebody who's in charge of that. What disqualifies someone? What qualifies someone as having a clean background check? Does that mean clean of all convictions of criminal?
Clean was my language, but I might ask JT if he might speak to it. I suppose there is some review that of someone's background that would cause you some concern, but that's a safety, public safety decision, not mine.
If there's nothing written in stone, or if there's an absolute, you have to have this or that, the totality of the circumstances in the background check is reviewed, there's a group of individuals to review it, feel that the person will not be a danger to the public, pass it on for the review. But there is nothing steadfast that says this time frame, you're in or you're out.
Understood. My concern is obviously based out of the fact that this ordinance is being passed, the pay rate for the crossing guards is being increased because of a high-profile crash involving the fire director that seriously injured 3 children. And it's come to my attention that the fire director himself has a criminal record. And that criminal record is for simple assault and shoplifting. And I guess I'll just say it plain and simple. Is it possible for the fire director to pass this background check? Would he be able to become a crossing guard, or would he be disqualified with his criminal record?
I don't know that answer, Charlie. Mr. Bradford. I mean, I don't have an answer for you as far as that's concerned. We're speaking on this particular ordinance on a pay raise. You turned it into this whole thing on background checks. So, are you in favor of the pay raise?
I am in favor of the pay raise, of course I am.
Thank you.
But I'm asking questions that are relevant, and I'm trying to hold people accountable to what they've said in these chambers.
And I think,
Sure.
and I think it's a little disingenuous if you were going to ask a question, which you have repeatedly, about the fire director from 30 years ago, to ask that question instead of spinning it into something about his past that you continually. What should he be doing right now? I just want to know, what should the fire director be doing right now, according to you and according to his background, that precludes him from his job from 30 years ago, before a lot of people were even born, or if it even happened? What do you want him to be doing right now?
I believe that this very same rule that is handed out and cited here about the 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure that that rule prevents any council member from asking direct questions of the public. So if we're going to follow the law to the letter, I'm okay, it's a rhetorical question.
Listen, we don't have an answer for you, so what's your next question?
Well, I guess I'll finish with a comment. And my comment is that it's outrageous that you would hold someone who wants to become a crossing guard to a higher standard than the person who is the second highest paid city employee. Director Rawls makes $155,000 a year. He is the #1 first responder for the city, the public safety official who's in charge of the Emergency Management Council. Yet he would not qualify to become a crossing guard that makes $25 a day. Something is wrong here.
Who said that he wouldn't qualify?
I'm pretty sure that simple assault and shoplifting on your criminal record would prevent the police department from hiring you as a crossing guard. And it was not 30 years ago, it was 25 years ago. And he was on the job at the time, and I want to know what came of that. Was he suspended?
Listen, this is not about the ordinance again. We're talking about giving crossing guards a raise, and you're all the way over somewhere. Do you have anything else on the ordinance? Please wrap it up.
I think it's a good ordinance, but because of this 5-minute limit, I'm using every minute I can to ask the questions that need to be asked. There's something very wrong here if this man was never suspended for the shoplifting. He was on the job at the time. He was pled guilty. This is not, did it happen or didn't it happen? He pled guilty. to shoplifting and 2 counts, not 1, but 2 counts of simple assault.
You're not speaking about the subject.
And I'm saying it's outrageous that you're going to
Just
hold
because you have
crossing
5
guards.
minutes doesn't mean I have to give it to you. Number one, I just want to let you know that. Because if you're going to go off the subject, I'm just going to not let you speak no more. So speak on the subject about the crossing guard.
My point, I think.
My point is that you keep going to a different subject. So finish up if you want to talk about exactly what it says. Adjust the rates of compensation for school crossing guards in the city of New Brunswick. I don't even see Robert Walls' name in this 3 sentences. Unless my St. Peter's English isn't helping me out here. I don't see it. So move on. Move on. You can get up and talk about it in the public portion of the meeting.
My point remains that
Okay.
it is outrageous that we're holding crossing guards to a higher standard than the fire director. The mayor, I don't know if he knew about the director's criminal record,
Okay.
but there needs to be,
You're off the subject again.
there needs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to cut you off if you keep talking about something different.
I'm not talking about something different. I'm talking about the criminal background check that these people are going to be forced to go through. I'm saying it's not fair. And I'm saying that if you're going to hold Director Rawls to one standard, you should hold the crossing guards to the same standard,
Okay.
not a higher standard than the second highest paid city employee. I think it's outrageous and something's very wrong here. And thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity to
You're
address it.
welcome, sir. Thank you. Anybody else on the ordinance? Seeing none?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Fleming,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. We have nothing on first reading.
No ordinance.
We have resolutions 401 through 433, which 431 being pulled,
29.
29, what's the other one? 25. And 25. Anybody in the audience wish to comment on the resolutions? Resolutions only, and you have 5 minutes on the resolutions. Yes, sir, name and address.
Jim Walsh, 76 May Street, New Brunswick. I'm also the state director for Food and Water Watch. Our office is 100 Bayer Street, New Brunswick. I'd like to, I guess, just generally ask some questions. One is I'd like to say that I'm glad that we're making some investments in the drinking water system that are probably much needed, but I'm hoping that there could be maybe some explanation about these general repairs. I see that some of them are related to the filtration system, which I know are part of the contract, need to be updated, the SCADA system needing to be updated. The roof repairs, though, I don't believe are part of that, but they're also part of an emergency expenditure, why we didn't see those coming. So if you could, maybe somebody could speak to kind of, what these repairs are happening and, for the public so that people can understand what we're spending money on and why they're, some of them are emergency expenditures. Thank you.
Mr. Lott.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever anticipate roof leaks, but we did have some roof leaks in the older portion of the water treatment plant, and we decided to repair them by the process of emergency procurement, meaning we did not put the project out to bid. We did solicit a couple of quick quotations. We identified the one that we thought was most fair, and we quickly responded to the water leaks. As you probably would agree, water leaks into areas with high voltage equipment is not a good idea. So we moved on quickly. We just call it an emergency procurement. SCADA is probably a term that you're more familiar with than most, but it's a computer system for gathering the information at the plant and analyzing it in real time. If you recall, during the CPE process, one of the conclusions was that our SCADA system was inadequate, needed to be updated. We took that seriously. We declared the emergency in January, and we caused the SCADA system to be totally retrofitted. I shouldn't use the word retrofit. It was replaced entirely with new equipment. New equipment that does keep historical data that the old system did not. And it was a pricey purchase, but we had our professionals review the price. They thought it was an excellent proposal, so we went with the procurement with Enterprise Automation for the $187, and then we did a change order later in the year for $8,200 when we had we extended the SCADA system to the basins where they're doing some, collecting some data from the sedimentation basins as well.
Is that why the, I guess, upgrades aren't done by the 15-day timeframe because you expanded what you were doing? Because I think in the contract it said that they would be upgraded by 15 days.
Which contract?
The contract we signed with American Water.
No, these, really, these purchases are independent of one another. The SCADA purchases were initiated back in January.
So
The
then
roofer-
Mr. Ross, through the chair, please.
Oh, sorry. So the upgrades that are required in the contract, the temporary agreement.
The MOU?
Yeah, those are different than these.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And
And then the fourth purchase was bringing someone in to clean the 4 cells of the membrane side of the treatment plant. We had some of the membranes replaced, some of them pinned, all of them cleaned, and there's a new DEP requirement that you have to report the conditions of those membranes every day. We decided to procure the services of an outside party to clean the membranes so that we were compliant as of August 1st, which I believe was the first day.
And are all of the filtration membrane systems online and running?
All the way.
All the different treatment systems we have, are they all online?
3 out of 4 membrane cells are functioning beautifully, and 7 out of 8 gravity filters are working very well. The combined output of those facilities is about 19.5 million gallons a day. We only need 13, but it is in our capital plan to replace the membranes in the 4th cell that is not operable right now, and it's in our capital plan to renovate the 8th gravity filter as well.
Okay. And then if the upgrades to the SCADA system were started in January, why are they emergency expenditures now and not through the regular procurement system?
We declared the emergency back in January. We were just getting a resolution passed that allows us to pay the vendor. When you decide to go by an emergency purchase, you have to have council authorization for that eventually. But we deemed it an emergency we decided to pursue the upgrade via emergency procurement back in January.
Okay. And then, so now the process is
The
essentially-
SCADA system is working exactly how we liked it to. It is recording historical data. It is giving our operators real-time information to react to. It's also being, as we talked about, read and monitored by American Water from afar at the moment.
And so we have people internally now that are reading the system and able, oh, sorry.
You have your own private conversation here.
Yes.
On the resolutions, okay?
On the resolutions,
Okay.
expenditures on the
Chair.
system,
Through the chair.
through the chair,
Right.
is the SCADA system that is being paid for and updated able to be read now by qualified employees to interpret that data and provide the city reliable information?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the service being provided by American Water that we're paying for additionally for this duplicative?
No, the service American Water is providing is a T4 and W4 licensed.
No, I'm sorry, let me just clarify that. Under the terms of the contract, they're supposed to be receiving our data. Are they, them receiving that data and evaluating that data, is that duplicative of us receiving it and evaluating that data?
Only in a good way. It's being reviewed by someone who is licensed at the American Water plant in Bridgewater. I consider that a positive thing.
After we bring on licensed operators, we should be able to, I'm sorry, through the chair. After we bring on licensed
This is
operators,
about resolutions.
I'll just look at you instead of Tom.
We gotta go on a resolution.
This
so
is-
we're trying to vote on it.
I respectfully believe that this
Okay.
is related to that because
Okay.
the city is expending resources on this.
Okay.
So if I could please entertain this, I'd appreciate it.
How much more time does he have?
2 minutes and 23 seconds.
You got it.
Is the, so when we bring on a licensed operator, will those services then be fully duplicated?
We're about to present to the council a 12-month agreement with American Water, most likely the evening of September 17th, 2 weeks from tonight. We do not have a water utility director on board yet. The interview process has begun. A number of candidates have been identified. I really can't answer that question, Jim, at the moment. There is clearly some value in duplicity. There is, at the moment, we don't have anyone on the water treatment side who has a license greater than a T1. You know that a T4 is required, and that is the service that we are most likely to buy from American Water going forward. Until the time that we bring in a water utility director with a T4 license, and most likely, again, a water superintendent with a T4 license, then I would say at that point, once we are successful in doing that, the need for American interface with us certainly diminishes.
Great. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for entertaining my questions.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dan Munoz. I'm currently a student at Rutgers, live on campus.
Okay.
I'd just like to ask a question about 3 of the resolutions, specifically the 3 that have been pulled from the agenda at the request of the city clerk, city clerk.
You want to talk about the ones that are pulled?
Yeah, I just want to know.
We're not going to talk about what's being told. That's all.
Wait for the public. Can you can explain what?
No,
All right.
sorry,
Thank you for your time.
sorry.
Good evening once again, Charles Cradaville of Brunswick. I think, first of all, you can and should discuss what's been pulled from the agenda. The agenda's been shared with the public, and I think you have a responsibility to answer questions about it. Man takes time out of his day to come to your meeting. It's the least you could do is answer those questions.
That's your opinion, but we're not even voting on them, so why are we going to talk about them? When we vote about them, that's what we're here to talk about, the things that we're going to vote on.
Just think it'd be a courteous thing to do as an
Thank you.
elected
Thank you.
official.
Thank you for.
Might get you more votes. So 406.
From you?
406, a resolution to adopt a plan to limit and regulate the use of Bugalo Park on football days. What on earth is this?
What on earth is that? That is a resolution that on, so far, 2 of the game days that are during the day, we're going to have regulatory parking at Bugalo Park. We're going to have, I believe it's the New Brunswick Parking Authority, and a couple members of the New Brunswick Police are going to be there, and we are going to limit the spaces that can be used for parking for Rutgers football games. We're going to charge $20. The $20 fee goes to the Green Acres Fund. It can only be used for Bugalo Park Green Acres Fund only. And it's only for the 2-day games. For the night games, we're going to be shutting the park down completely. There'll be no parking. Like the ordinance says, the park will be closed 1 hour after sunset. During the day games, there'll be no open flames, there'll be no alcoholic beverages. We're just using it as a parking-only park because the business administrator, the mayor, and some other people feel that we're being very proactive by getting involved before this big surge comes on with the Rutgers. We're expecting big numbers. Some of the games have been sold out already. And over the last years, we've received numerous complaints on the use and the way Bugalo Park has been maintained, or I should say maintained, the way it's been after a Rutgers game with the garbage and all this other stuff that's been going on there. So a committee was formed by the mayor, and this is what the committee has come up with, and that's what it is. Hope I explained it.
Thank you. Who was on this committee?
Who was on the committee? Tom, the business administrator. There's a couple of people from the police department, Captain Zabo, a lady, Melissa Selesky from Rutgers University, Mitch Karen, and another representative from the parking authority. Myself, Kevin Egan was on the committee. I believe our city attorney was here.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think we included the city attorney until know, obviously we made our recommendations, but Steve Zarecki of Public Works, Mike Montanez of the Parks Department, they were involved in the,
That's correct.
in the
Mr.
discussion.
Martinez and Steve Zarecki were also there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With all due respect, it would have been proactive to make a move like this if it weren't 3 days before the game. This is being done at the last minute. This is being done, quite frankly, behind the backs of the public, because the title of this resolution was all that was available to the public until today, and it is misleading. It says it will limit and regulate parking. What you really should have said, charge for parking. That's what you're doing. And I believe that there are numerous other flaws with this plan. I think there'll be other people speaking about some of them, but the first one that I want to bring up is, what role does the parking authority play in Bugalo Park? Is that part of their charge as the parking authority? I know you served on the parking authority board. Are they supposed to handle parking in city parks? Is that part of their duties?
We're making that part of their duty for the games. We appointed the parking authority to do this, to collect the money and to park the people in the park. That's what we're having the parking authority do.
Well, I respectfully submit to you then, this would require an ordinance. And this is not an ordinance, this is a resolution being passed 3 days before you're trying to do this. Can I ask, has the parking authority already taken money for these spots? Have they already sold the spots?
I don't think so. Right?
I believe they took took money for one spot through a portal in their system that allows, I forget exactly what the program is, but you can actually, from afar, find a parking space through the parking authority's website. And I would say, I will speak for them, and maybe, well, Antoine is here, but in error, they accepted money on one parking permit, and I believe they're in the process, if they haven't already done so, of returning money. They certainly should have waited until the council had taken some action on it.
President, do we have any other parks, Johnson Park, anybody else charge or do anything?
Yes, Johnson Park.
Everybody.
Johnson Park, who is going to, is facing the same Green Acres questions that we're, I assume, about to hear. They charge $30 to park in Johnson Park, and not only do they allow the $30, they welcome the cars right onto the turf. They have them fenced in with a snow fence, but they charge $30. The thought process was, if we sat back and did nothing while Rutgers collects $20 in all their lots, the St. George Church charges $35 a car, Johnson, the county of Middlesex charges $30 just on the other side of the river, and we charged nothing, I think, and the committee thought, that there would be a natural gravitation of people to Buckaloo Park to park there for free, and to simply walk a mile over the Landing Lake Bridge to the stadium. I don't think that's good public policy, to let the stadium fill up with people who want to park for no cost. Excuse me, the park to fill up with people who want to park there at no charge. I don't think that is good to our public who still want to use the park during a football Saturday. I don't think it's good to the neighbors. We decided to charge, or we're recommending to charge, to try and regulate the environment. We've identified 480 spaces. We are not parking on our turf. We are not creating parking lots, as has been alleged in a couple of letters to the editor and in some other articles. We are not creating parking lots. The spaces we have identified are on the street themselves, the paved surfaces themselves. Why not control the situation instead of just let everyone who figures out Buckaloo Park is for free descend upon the park, and we clean up the aftermath the following morning?
Mr. President, it was also, obviously, if I wanted to go play tennis and everybody's parked over there to go to football, I can't do anything. Is there any spots or
Yes.
anything?
Yes.
There's a whole map set up where the whole Easton Avenue side, from the Easton Avenue entrance down by Lincoln Place, goes all the way up, and that's all for joggers, people who want to play tennis, people who just want to enjoy the park. They're going to have their own egress right out of Whitecroft Street there, and we're going to have the other two entrances on where you park on the street.
I would also add, we've talked to Green Acres. They have told us you are free to charge if you wish. Whatever you derive in the form of revenue has to be dedicated to a parks specific project or the parks budget. We're more than willing to do that. I know we're going to hear from Bruce Newling about a violation of the deed. The deed requires us to manage the land as if it's a public park. I don't think anything has changed. It is not a parking lot. Those cars will be there anyway if we don't charge. Why not offset our costs for controlling the environment a little better?
Okay. Yes, anybody have anything else?
Go ahead, I'll let him.
Go ahead.
Okay, so two questions would be, is the parking authority taking any cut at all? You said something about offsetting expenses. I thought all the money was going to Green Acres.
They're not taking it back.
No, we are paying them for their services.
Oh, they're getting paid, yeah.
Oh.
We're not sharing in the net. We are going to pay them for their hourly services.
Okay.
Just like we're going to pay our police officers who participate and our parks employees who participate as well.
And when did those discussions with DEP Green Acres happen?
Over the summer. I can't say specifically.
And so the plan has all along been to use this to raise money for the Green Acres.
That's where the money has to go. But the plan is to try to control the parking and the people in Bugalo Park. That's the plan. That's our plan. That's why we're
The
doing
money, excuse me, I'm sorry. The money doesn't go to Green Acres. It stays here, but it has to be used for a park-specific purpose.
Understood. And then the last question on this one would be, how do you determine who is there for the game and who's not? How do you make sure that people aren't ticketed who are just using the park? Or how do you regulate this? What's the plan for that?
Well, there's a plan. When they come into the park, they're going to a certain space. And when they're in that certain space, those are the people that are supposed to be going to the Rutgers game. And that plan will be regulated by the police and by the people in the parking authority.
Okay, well, I would just humbly suggest that this plan should have been presented much earlier. I think it's at the last minute. It's not proactive. It's the opposite. And I think it was wrong for the parking authority to start selling these permits in advance of the meeting. And, I wish you well, but I think this is probably not the wisest move.
Yes.
I just think on behalf of citizens who live in New Brunswick, that we've been trying to, for years now, decades, we've been trying to peacefully coexist with the Rutgers community also. And this is a plan, this plan helps to alleviate some of the traffic that comes into New Brunswick on game days. Because there's some people who are not going to games, not going to Rutgers games, they have nothing to do with the campus, they just want to drive through New Brunswick, and you can't go because it literally becomes a parking lot of everybody trying to come into New Brunswick to park at that time. Now, if you go to other teams, you go to other places, Big Ten cities and stuff like that, I've seen people charge to park in their driveways. They have people who charge to park in their driveways. Any little space that people can find to park, they charge in other towns. This will at least help to alleviate people who just come in, because it's not really about, if you live within a walking distance or you live within a shuttle distance, you can get to the stadium. You don't have to park in Bugalo Park. So it's not even about really people who are living within the town or people who live on campus, because they can get there. This is about people coming in from out of town, causing congestion, literally causing our town to shut down on certain game days. Because people can't get to the businesses on Eastern Avenue, they can't get anywhere if they just want to come into town just to patronize some of the businesses. And this will alleviate some of the traffic. We always talk about we want to alleviate more of the cars on the road. This will help to alleviate it, as opposed to just thinking this is an attack, we're trying to make some extra money, or this is an attack against Rutgers or whatever. This is a plan to help to alleviate some of that traffic during on game day.
Anything else, Mr. Bauer?
Yes, number 13 and 14, the neighborhood patrol team expansion and the Safe and Secure Communities program. Are these two related?
Captain Miller?
They're not related.
Can you tell me, so Rutgers is chipping in for the neighborhood patrol team? Is that what's happening here?
Rutgers, yeah, Rutgers is providing funding for the expansion of the neighborhood.
That's phenomenal. I'm glad to hear it. Congrats to everybody
It's all
involved.
our grants,
This will
grants
probably
we
be
receive
One for
for years.
How much?
It's a revolving grant.
It's the usual one. Okay, thank you. The corrective action plan for the 2013 audit, can somebody speak to some of these problems that were identified with the city finances?
Mr. Watkins?
I would ask maybe Mr. Pettit.
Is he here?
Yes, he is.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Pettis?
Actually, there were a couple recommendations made by the auditors. One had to do with revenue collections. There's a statute that requires that deposits be made within 48 hours of receipt by the department. There was a citing in the rent control area that just because of the volume that came in during the peak period, that they didn't meet that 48-hour rule. And I talked to the Director of Economic Development, and they're going to obviously try to correct that in the future. Construction Code Department, there's a monthly permit log that doesn't agree with their actual turnovers. Again, I've talked to the construction code official, and he's given assurances that that's going to be corrected in the future. Municipal court, most of that has to do with the following up and checking on the tickets that are assigned. The problem is that out of the court, there are a number of different police agencies, Rutgers Police, actually the Amtrak Police, of course, the Brunswick Police, the County Sheriff's Department. So all those different policing units have to be better monitored as to how the tickets are being distributed. And I talked to the court administrator, and she's in the process of tightening up some of the process there. The public library, and this is a comment that's been in a number of years, they've been gifted different stocks, and also they have some treasuries that are beyond the limit of their normal contributions or the statutes with regard to the investments that municipalities can make. And the library director has been talking to his board. The good news is they've made about $100,000 from last year's comment. But having said that, it still is probably inappropriate for them to be holding some different stocks. And the library director said that he is going to address that issue. And the last one has to do with recreation. It's just a couple bookkeeping issues with regard to recreation and the receipt tickets, and just kind of voiding the receipt ticket, but not really keeping good tabs on that. And I've talked to both the Director of Social Services and also the Recreation Department Supervisor to try to tighten that up. I know that they have some additional staff there that's a little more familiar with finance. I'm hoping that gets corrected as well.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis, for the answers. I do want to follow up about the municipal court. It says tickets assigned but not issued report indicated 290 tickets are over 181 days old, and these tickets should be recalled. Is it possible that any of these tickets are the tickets that are like the ones I found in the garbage can, that they're being improperly disposed of?
I don't know. Anybody have an answer?
I know, I'm not gonna speculate on where every ticket is, but I know the court contacted the police department after Mr. Rattle brought that to our attention. And I know a majority, I can't speak for every ticket because I don't work in the court, but a majority have been accounted for and recalled and, handled appropriately.
Thank you.
So that means this number 290 is not accurate anymore? There's been many that have been recalled since the audit? Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay. I think 290 is a very large number of tickets to be on the loose, and I suggest that
I agree.
whoever can look into it, because then the next one is tickets issued but not assigned. Report indicated 220 tickets. So that's a total of over 500 tickets that are unaccounted for. What is going on? This doesn't sound right.
That's what the audit says, it's the same thing. We're going to correct it.
Okay. I sure hope so.
You're right, it's right there in black and white, those were the recommendations, Mr. Pettis just read them, and you're right, that's an extremely high number.
Well,
Anything else?
I just want to ask about the last one, the Board of Ethics appointment. Can you tell me a little bit about the person you're about to put on the Ethics Board?
Reverend Joseph Hooper. The mayor appointed?
Yes. If you need your consent. I have a letter from the mayor in your packet.
Yes.
Okay.
The mayor made this appointment. The Reverend is a fine individual. I don't know him personally, and he's recommending him for the ethics board.
And so, to be clear, none of the council know anything about him?
I met him a couple times.
Seems like worthy of the Ethics Board? Seems like he's a worthy individual to be serving on the Ethics Board?
Say so.
Yes.
Can you tell me where he's a reverend?
I read it.
What are you rolling your eyes for, Charles?
Because it appears that you don't know this person's qualifications and you're about to put him on the Ethics Board. I suggest that you look
I
into
just
it.
told you, I know him, I met him a couple times, he's a very good man, I believe he'll do a very good job on the ethics board. I don't know what his favorite food is, where he likes to eat, what his wife's name is. I'm telling you, being as truthful as I can be. And
I appreciate that, but
You're welcome.
I'm just a little
Okay.
concerned. And so I guess the last question I have is, who is he replacing on the Ethics Board and why is there a vacancy?
Yes, Mr. Teresi.
He's replacing Marion Combs, who's relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Thank you. Did you hear that, sir?
I did. Well, I wish Reverend Hooper well, but I really do think that the council ought to do more due diligence when consenting to the mayor's appointments. Just because the mayor says he's a good guy doesn't mean that you should have consent to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Bruce Newland, 47 Huntington Street in the city.
Good evening.
Through the chair, I would like to ask legal counsel present, when the city received an assurance from Green Acres program that this proposal to put the parking of vehicles in park at the football games was fine as far as Green Acres was concerned.
Counsel?
Well, I will represent to the council, I did not speak to anyone specifically at Green Acres. I did explore how the county was proceeding with their parking plan, and I did consult with other members of the city who did speak with representatives of Green Acres. I also have known from past reference that this type of process is permitted by Green Acres. So, as far as the date, the time, and the person I spoke to, I didn't speak to anyone specifically from Green Acres. I know that the county has explored it as well. I can't even tell you who they spoke to, but I spoke with members of the county legal counsel, and they vetted the process that they went through regarding this parking arrangement with Green Acres as well.
Through the chair, is Mr. Shammy saying that he doesn't know when it was that Green Acres approved this for the city of New Brunswick?
That's true. I don't know the exact date. I wasn't involved in that direct communication.
So in other words, Mr. Chairman, the council sitting here does not know how Green Acres would dispose of this matter with respect to Buckland Park. I'm not talking about Johnson Park. I'm talking about Buckland Park. And the reason why I raise this is because I spoke with Mr. David Smith, who is the team leader for the Stewardship Committee to do with Middlesex and adjacent counties. And when I spoke to him, he did not know that this was coming up, and he said that they would look into the matter. Now, this was on Tuesday morning. He hadn't at that time actually received my letter, which was mailed to him on Saturday and would have reached, and he said he would get that letter between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. So what I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, is that Green Acres is still deliberating on this matter and expects to consult with the council before this thing goes forward. And the normal procedure is that it would take a month to review the proposal, there would be a public hearing about it, and then permission would be granted. The arrangement that Johnson Park has, as I talked to Mr. Albanier on the matter this afternoon, this was done several years ago when they were using Johnson Park for the thing. So but the Johnson Park experience is not necessarily a template for the Buckland Park situation. So if you are proceeding with a notion that this has been sanctioned for Buckland Park by Green Acres, this is an erroneous notion as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Loughlin said he spoke with somebody.
No, I did not. Mike Montanez from the Parks Department spoke with Nancy Lawrence from the Green Acres program in July of this year.
Mr. Montanez, can you comment on that?
Previously said over the summer. And she has given us direction on this matter, which has led us to being this far along with the proposal.
Well, why is it that the steward, the team leader, David Smith, knew nothing about this?
I have no idea.
Could we get what is the status within Green Acres of the woman to whom Mr. Munez spoke?
Mr. Montanez?
I don't know her title, but why do you think that since Dave Smith wasn't aware of it, that others in the Green Acres unit are and have already given us direction on how to proceed?
I think that it sounds very irregular that David Smith would not know if, why wasn't David Smith the person approached?
We spoke, because he spoke to another person in Green Acres. Mr. Martinez, can you stand up and tell who you spoke with and when, please?
Nancy Lawrence spoke with her June the 30th at 2:33 p.m. She said Mr. Smith was tied up and he was going away, that she would share that with him. She called me back. She said he was quite satisfied with the explanation. Please forward that in writing. We did. She said, good luck and go forward. Others are doing it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. My next question to the council. Have you explored the provisions of the deed, and what was your reaction to that exploration?
Go ahead. Gotcha.
Members of council, I have literally looked at this deed since 2010 when Professor Newland first brought it up. Quite frankly, I'm currently involved in litigation which centers around this deed. I've looked at it numerous times, I've explored it, I've looked at it in the context of this particular proposal, and I have no reservations whatsoever that this proposed conduct, we're using, or the contents of this particular resolution would violate the reverter provision in the deed. So I am very comfortable in representing to the council that this would not trigger a reverter based upon the language contained in the deed titling the property to the city.
Thank you.
Well, if council, Mr. Chairman, has that confidence, can he tell us, since we are interested in this as members of the public, how would the city defend against a court action involving the reverter clause in this instance?
Well, the language in the deed doesn't trigger this particular conduct. We talk about a permanent diversion, if you will, of that particular park land for private purpose as opposed to a public purpose. We're not building a parking lot, I think someone said earlier. We're not paving over Bugalo Park and creating a commercial parking lot. That clearly would be a situation where the reverter provision would apply. But this is not conduct by which the reverter would be activated, and that's how it will be defended. It's a fact sensitive, but yes.
Thank you.
All right. Well then, with regard to the cars that are to be provided for, how many cars can be accommodated in the space designated for Rutgers football fan parking?
I think Mr. Lockman said it was 480.
480.
480.
Leaving the inner road that runs parallel to Easton Avenue from, call it the most northerly entrance, all the way to where the large flagpole is, leaving that space open for the general public.
Okay, so 400, and what would be the linear length? About 20 feet per car linear length?
That's usual parking space, yes.
So that would be about 1.5 miles of cars parked front to tail around the road in the park. Is that right?
Well, your math is correct.
Well, 480 times 20 divided by 280, whatever that comes out to be. And you're satisfied that that would then leave enough room for other people to find parking in Buckland Park? It wouldn't take up all the parking actually available in the park? Through the chair?
Yes. Yes. I'll say yes. Because I was in the...
What will Mr. Loughlin say?
Mr. Loughlin, what do you say?
I would say the space that we have set aside for the general public on that inner roadway, again, running parallel to Easton Avenue, I think would be sufficient for most Saturdays where there is Rutgers football in town. In fact, I think our plan at least preserves public space. Should we sit back and do nothing, I think there's no guarantee to whether the public can get into the park.
So there is available a map that shows where the public can park?
Yes, sir.
And where is that map to be obtained?
I have a copy of it.
Mr. Loughlin has a copy, I'm sure you can give you a
Copy of
copy.
the map that we're proposing, yeah.
He has a copy of the proposal map, you can see it. We'll give you a copy. Would that be okay, Mr. Loughlin?
That's fine with me, sure.
Sure.
All right.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good night. On the resolutions, we're still on the resolutions. Anybody want to comment on the resolutions, please? Yes, sir.
So now, tonight, I want to see Street Budget Committee.
Yes, sir.
I want to, I just brought up what he just said as far as like, because on occasion, I go to, Bigelow Park and park my car and I sometimes jog around. Is there another place for other, residents to park during that time, during game time? Like, shouldn't there be a designated place for?
We are, we just talked about it. We have a whole designated place all the way from the Lincoln Place exit, which is the Franklin exit down by lower end of Eastern Avenue, all the way up to the flagpole, all the way up past the Major League Diamond, if you know the baseball fields there. That's all for people jogging, playing tennis, just want to go in the park and do something. All that's designated for non-Rutgers parkers over there.
Okay, because a lot of times people have, a lot of nonprofit organizations have events in that park.
Absolutely, we do the ordinances.
What would happen if on that day, a nonprofit organization decided to have an event in Bigelow Park, and on it's the same time as game day? Who trumps who?
Well, first of all, if they have to come to the council, like they have in the past, they have to come here and ask us to use the park.
Okay.
So we would have to look at that situation and see. I don't see if it was a walk or something like that, they could probably, I don't know if we would do it on a Rutgers game day or not. I don't know what that situation would be. We haven't crossed that path yet.
So you would be the deciding factor of whether an organization gets access to the park, or is it a profit? Is there a profit there?
No, I think if it's something, if they wanted to have a jog through the park, I don't know, on the track, I don't know why we still couldn't let them accommodate. If it was coming from another place, I don't know why we couldn't accommodate them in the park and jog on the same day.
Yeah, well, so even people, I go jogging,
Yeah.
and I bring my car sometimes. I drive,
There's gonna be a spot for you to park and jog on a Rutgers game day.
Okay. I have another question. When you guys discussed, because, on that one day, you guys are gonna make $9,600, right?
That's if everybody parks there.
Okay. Well,
That's the most we can make.
Yeah, that's the most you can make on that day, just one day. Okay. Making $9,600, just that one day. And it is dealing with football and football fans, right? It is dealing with the fans of football.
Are we fans of football?
It's dealing with the fans of football.
Right.
Right. I want to know, is any of those proceeds going to the Little League Raiders organization?
All the proceeds, Mr. Pittman, have to go to Green Acres Funds in Bigelow Park. So all the money that we get has to go to a Green Acres bank account.
No, he
From the park.
said all the money's not going to Green Acres.
No, he said it's all going to Bugalo Park, funding for Bugalo Park, not to Green Acres, not to actual Green Acres, it's going to Green Acres money for Bugalo Park. Am I saying that right, Mr. Lackland?
It is going, it needs to be, these funds need to be separated from the general funds of the city, and they must be plowed back into parks-related activities.
All right, Raiders Little League organization is a park-related activity. Those kids practice and they conduct in Apostrophe Park. So I want to know, is any of these proceeds going to the Little League organization, the Raiders? This is the only football organization we have.
No,
Why not?
because it's going to Bugalo Park, it has to stay in Bugalo Park.
Are you listening to what he's saying?
Yeah, I am listening. And it has to be used for parks only, not for people that use the park.
So you don't consider Apostrophe Park park?
I didn't say that. The way I understand it, and I could be wrong, is that the money that we raise there has to be used for Bugalo Park money only. I didn't know if it could be used in other parts.
He said something different.
He did?
Yes.
He just said parks.
I said parks in general. I think we would, I believe we have no intended use for the net proceeds yet.
Okay,
So
well,
that issue.
I mean, you guys get $9,600 for a day. You can't, I mean, I would think that you would want to give the Little League organization, football organization, some of that money, being that you are profiting off of football activity. I think
I
you
didn't
guys
say
should
we
give us.
couldn't.
Okay,
We'll look into it.
Because you guys weren't even looking at it, you weren't even thinking about it. So it,
Well, because I don't think that's a park-related thing. I don't think that's the same thing as buying something for the park, like trees or shrubs, or offsetting the costs for Parks Department personnel to clean up the garbage after the game. I don't think any of those things, I think those are the things.
Giving young children something to do, to play, performing so they can go to school, play football, and hopefully go on to college, and then continue a career. I think that's
great.
better.
I think it's great. I play
Yeah, so
college.
let's grow the individuals before we think about the trees.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's about the resolutions. Only the resolutions.
Can I talk about?
Just the resolutions right now. Anybody else on the resolutions?
Hi, Sean Monahan, Woodley Street.
Yes.
I was wondering how much it was going to cost in terms of the police and the parking authority people. What's the estimate for how much that's going to, all that's going to cost?
I'd say roughly about $4,000 a day.
Okay.
And that includes Porta Johns and all our expenses as we.
And we are putting more garbage cans up there in the park, extra porta johns and things like that.
I wasn't totally clear about that. So that 4,000, that can be paid out of the money that's collected? Or
I'm not
it's gonna be
entirely sure about that, whether it's got to be paid out from another account or we can net out our expenses from the revenue, but we will clean that up with Green Acres.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I was sort of concerned about with this was just it seems kind of rushed, and the process. It's a little, it seems crazy that somebody from Green Acres whose title we don't know approved this. How can you be sure that we have the authority to do it with Green Acres if we don't know the person's name?
I'm comfortable with the representations that Nancy Lawrence has made.
Okay. And then I guess my last point on this was I guess I'm just a little bit confused about the difference between an ordinance and a resolution. So this resolution refers multiple times to the revised general ordinances of the city, and that's because those ordinances govern parking regulations. Why is it that this parking regulation is allowed to be passed with a resolution, whereas all other parking regulations have to be passed with an ordinance?
We occasionally, pass, for lack of a better word, legislation by resolution, and this clearly would require an ordinance to eventually catch up with it. The things that we're proposing are subject to an ordinance, but I don't believe there's any reason why you can't do a 90-day resolution on these kinds of things. We've done it before.
I concur with council here. No, that's exactly right. You can do this by resolution. In fact, the ordinance that's cited in here gives the council the ability to have special events in the park and to relax certain regulations. And that could be done by resolution on a temporary basis, on an interim basis. If this were to become a permanent fixture, if you will, then we would probably go back and incorporate all of the detail into the ordinance book as well. But this has the same force and effect as an ordinance.
It just seems that this has been rushed, I guess. And I know that you can pass a resolution with a single meeting, but an ordinance requires 2 meetings. And this is giving me the impression that you've chosen to rush it and to make it happen in 1 meeting. And this is the only way to make it happen. That's what it looks like. Is that accurate?
No.
It's not? It wasn't rushed? It's been a deliberative process, and you just chose not to do the ordinance because you wanted to come back later to do it again later.
It's like this because there's been much thought into the process, and that's why we're getting into it so late. That's the reason.
Thanks.
Thank you. On the resolutions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
On that one, actually. My name is Lauren Petrie, 124 Laird Street. Actually wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but I just have a lot of questions from listening to folks speak. First thing I wanted to mention is I assume that those posters in the back have to do with what we're talking about?
No.
No, they don't. Okay, never mind then. So my first question is, how do the police tell who is there specifically for game day and who's there just to use the park?
They make a judgment. I mean, you could tell from a person that's dressed up to go to a Rutgers game with someone that's going to stretch out and jog around the park. I think they're going to be able to know, just practicality, I would think, common sense. Maybe.
But it's like a football game day profiling. So for what I'm getting at is like, if I go there with my friends and I'm like, oh, I can park for free if I say we're going to use the tennis courts. So I get into free parking and now I walk across the park and I've gotten in the stadium without parking. Like, what stops that from happening?
You see it, they're watching.
You're giving us a hypothetical situation that
I think it's a logical question, though. That's something that the police are going to encounter, right? I mean, that's a great way to get around paying $20 for parking.
Mr. Egan?
Yes.
We are going to physically segregate the interior road, which we are identifying for public parking. If you park in that public space, you play tennis for an hour, and you go to the football game, maybe you've beaten us, okay? This is new to us. There's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be some growing pains. Maybe we'll find out 12 months from now this was a big mistake. Maybe we'll realize, maybe we'll come to the conclusion that it was a wonderful idea. But yeah, I suppose there are ways people are going to attempt to beat us on the issue. But we're trying to honor what Green Acres asked us to honor, which is to keep a portion of the park open to the public. And we are, by a physical barricade, we are going to create what we believe is the public parking space. Anyone else who gets into the park has to enter at other entry points. They're going to be stopped by New Brunswick parking personnel, and they're going to be required to buy a ticket at that point.
Okay. So if I understand this correctly, the whole idea behind this was to help protect and preserve Euclid Park, if I'm saying that correctly, right? Like the entirety of the park. So if the police can tell who's there for a football game and who's not there for a football game, did the council consider no parking at all for people that are there for a football game to actually preserve the integrity of the park? Because it sounds like adding garbage cans, adding police, adding adding porta-johns doesn't exactly help to preserve the integrity of the park.
We're doing that for night games, closing the park for night games. There'll be no parking for any night game at Bugalo Park. The park's open during the day, so no, we didn't consider closing the park. We're trying to accommodate everybody. We're trying to be proactive here. Like Mr. Loughlin said, we're new to this. There's going to be some growing pains, but the committee feels that this is a good thing to start out with for the games.
Okay. And my last question is the money that is raised through Green Acres that has to go back to the park have to be project specific. So I was just curious if the council or the committee has any projects in the works that they know of, like, that the money is gonna be going towards specifically?
I don't know of any, I'm sure there's tons of things that the park needs, but.
Well, eventually, we want to rebuild the entry from College Avenue into the park. That area has been run down, regrettably, the masonry entrance into the park. But we're not deciding now how we intend to reuse the money.
Okay. And how,
Other than we know that it has to be reused within the park system, maybe park specific.
within a certain amount of time?
I don't know.
We don't know that. We're gonna definitely get with Green Acres and talk with them on all the specifics. Like Mr. Loughlin said, like Mr. Pittman was asking, is it just park specific? Can we use it for the football team like he suggested? We're gonna get all these answers from Green Acres and see what we can do and what we can't do.
Okay,
They're gonna ask about it.
all right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Anybody else on the resolutions? You spoke on the resolutions already. You
I
can't speak
only
anymore.
use 2 minutes.
No, sir.
May I
No.
please request time, because the Green Acres question has come up and I didn't speak to that, and I promise
No.
I'm not here to waste your time.
No. You talked about everything else. You kept going and going and going about the water. You have 5 minutes on the resolutions. You should have thought about it before. 5 minutes is all you get on resolutions. You can talk about it in the public portion.
Well, then you've already voted.
Excuse me?
Then you've already voted.
Mr. Warsh, we gave you
I
plenty of time.
didn't take my 5 minutes.
Yes, you did.
I used
You
3
went
minutes. No, I sat down before my time was up.
Who said?
The time was on the clock right
All
there.
right, go ahead.
Thank you very much for.
2 minutes. Ready, go.
Thank you.
Come on, we're still on the resolution.
It's really quick. I just, do we have anything in writing from Green Acres approving this
I knew I should
going
have.
forward?
My first mistake was kindness.
I just, because it's all been conversations. I don't know that we have something in writing from Green Acres.
Mr. Martinez, you wrote them a letter, correct?
Yes, all she asked was a letter from us reassuring them that the park will be open to the public as well at all times also, that the proceeds of funds will be returned back for maintenance and repairs on the park. That's all she asked, a letter from us. That's what she.
And that if we gave them, so the understanding is that, is there something in writing saying if we gave them that assurance that it would be fine with Green Acres? Or was it a conversation that said if we gave them that it would be okay?
Go ahead, Mr. Martinez. We sent a letter.
We sent the letter. She wants later an account number from our finance office, where the funds are going, account number, how it's being drawn, and for what.
I'm going to try to ask the question again because I feel like it's that. Is there something in writing from Green Acres that says?
No, there's nothing in writing from Green Acres. It was a verbal response. We
Okay.
sent something in writing to them.
Does that provide, what happens if, because Mr. Newling raised some concerns that Green Acres is still evaluating this. What happens if that evaluation comes back and Green Acres says they don't approve this? What happens to this project?
I suppose we would suspend the program.
Okay.
Wouldn't want to continue in the face of Green Acres opposition. We believe we have their approval.
Thank you very
We've
much.
gotten this wrong.
Thank you. For Council President, sorry.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the resolutions?
Motion. Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes. We will now proceed to the public portion of the meeting, where everyone will have 5 minutes, 5 minutes only to speak. Please have your name and address. And you will have 5 minutes, and Mr. Marchetta will let you know if your 5 minutes is up. Thank you.
Excuse me, my name is Xavier. I live at 175 Brunswick Avenue, New Brunswick. I would like to ask you a question. What's about the parking authority? Sorry.
Can't hear you.
About the parking authority in New Brunswick.
Okay.
I would like to know, how they have these signs for reserves parking. I would like to know, what can you stop giving tickets?
I don't know what you're talking, what do you mean reserve parking? Permit parking?
Yes, permit parking, I would like to know, what can you stop from giving tickets?
Stop giving you tickets?
Yes.
Why would we stop you to get
Because-
permit parking in the area? Why would we stop?
All over the town, in New Brunswick, like when you go to the hospital, you can have a park around You
That's
have to
right.
feed the meters.
That's correct. That's for the residents that live in the area, sir. It's called resident permit
But what
parking.
happens if you need to go to the emergency room?
They have they have valet parking at the hospital.
Yeah, but like for example, I live in Benson Avenue,
Okay?
in Delavan, and they come and start giving tickets there. Because I live in the building, and you know, that's public parking and all, and we just come and give tickets. That's why I would
Well,
like.
if you live there, you're a resident. You should have resident permit parking. Why are you getting a ticket?
I didn't get a ticket, but
Oh.
I got a ticket for the sweeper, I don't know what that is.
So that's alternate side of the street of parking. After October 1st, you can park anywhere you want.
Okay, that's all I want to ask you, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello again.
Hi, how are you? Lauren Petrie, 124 Bayard Street, also a Central Jersey organizer for Food and Water Watch. And I just wanted to express my frustration today with the city's handling of OPA requests and transparency of the ongoing water privatization issue, in dealings with American Water. Frankly, the transparency between the city and these OPA request handlings has been really disgraceful. Food and Water Watch has submitted 2 OPA requests over the past 2 months. Both came back asking for an extension, and that extension didn't include a reasonable merit for needing more time to have those OPA requests provided to us. One actually was denied. They denied email correspondence saying that the request wasn't specific enough, but in previous OPA requests that I have submitted, I actually received emails from the city. So, we want to have faith in the city, what's going on. We want to learn what's happened, what's happening now. We want to learn how things are moving forward and progressing. But it's really hard to have faith in the city when we can't even have full transparency here. And our OPA requests are, unreasonably delayed and unreasonably denied. So I just wanted to express my frustration with the city.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jim Walsh, 76 May Street, also the State Director for Food and Water Watch. I have a couple of questions about the contract and some suggestions that I just would like to offer to the council I think are important. But first, I would like to just ask the question, I guess, about the manner of addressing the council rules. Because I know I sent a letter to the council that you all received. I really feel that the vote that happened was, while a gentleman was trying to offer his statement in song, and a vote was held before members of the public who were here to speak on the emergency order was held while that was going on. Is there anything in here that actually makes you believe that somebody can't provide their comments to the public via song?
Not the way it's written there, no.
What?
Does it say anything about a guy making his comments in song?
Yeah, is there anything here that would prohibit, because he was prohibited from providing his comments via song at the council meeting. And is there anything in this that would prohibit that?
No.
Is there anything anywhere else in the Brunswick ordinance that would prohibit that?
No.
Do you feel like anyone's rights may have been violated, the fact that the public was not able to speak on the resolution and the contract beforehand because of some issues that had gone on during that?
Mr. Walsh, the guy came up with a guitar and wanted to sing a song in the middle of a pretty important thing. Maybe we acted in the wrong manner, maybe we didn't, but that was the council president's action at that time, and that's what happened. Now we're gonna move forward. I don't know what you want me to talk about. And what do you want me to say?
I guess that I just feel like it's like this whole water deal has really been a problem all along the whole process for it, and I just feel that I wasn't able to comment on the issue on the record. Neither were many other people who came, and all of you voted for it while that was going on. And it wasn't just
You spoke before the guy played the guitar, didn't you?
No,
You didn't speak?
not until after the vote had already
I
occurred.
thought you spoke before.
No.
Okay, point well taken. Thank you.
So in the MOU, there's a 60-day commitment for American Water to hire a new water director. It seems like that timeline isn't getting met. Is there anything that's going to happen because that timeline isn't being met?
It's a 60-day commitment for American Water?
No, for us to hire a new water director, I believe was the timeline spelled out in there. Is there any issues or problems that will arise for the city because we aren't going to meet that deadline, or do you expect we will meet that deadline?
60 days from, what, July 7th?
I would imagine the date it was
I
enacted.
don't see us meeting that deadline. I don't think it was a hard deadline. It was a preference, but as I said earlier, we're in the process of interviewing candidates, or at least our consultant is. So no, I don't suspect that there'll be any problems with the current operation, or for another 30 days or 45 days, whatever it takes to bring on someone in. The idea is to bring someone in competent more so than as quickly as possible.
How many shift operators is the city? I'm sorry. How many shift operators has the city been using?
Shift supervisors being their employees?
There's a provision within the contract that specifically, I prefer my time not to be used to answer his question.
Okay. I just want to understand your question.
The contract says that there are shift supervisors, I believe, who will be used for the American Water employees, but that the city doesn't have to use all of them, and that would be basically prorate our cost by that.
We get credit
Right,
for every
exactly.
shift supervisor they don't produce.
That's right. So how many of them are we using?
We're using one, and they brought someone new in next week who's starting to train as a shift supervisor. Came in from the North Water Utility.
Okay.
So when they do bill us for this period of time under the MOU, I expect credits for shift supervisors not produced.
Okay, and then it's at the city's discretion, though, if those shift supervisors is used, not American Water's, correct?
No, I think we, at least under the terms of the MOU, we expect and preferred some shift supervisors to be involved in the equation. But we're entitled to a credit to the extent that they can't produce them.
Okay. Has American Water provided any feedback on asset management and maintenance systems, and something that they were supposed to do under the terms of the MOU within 60 days?
Not that I'm not managing the contract, but not that I can specifically recall.
Has American Water asked for additional monies to be paid for processing laboratory technicians or off-site laboratory analysis?
They haven't billed me for anything yet.
Is that something that they're asking for in the new contract?
They expect the city to continue to pay for off-site analysis as we have been doing for a long time now.
But not additional monies?
I don't believe we're not going to change our method of laboratory analysis. We send some samples down to Brick, Water Authority, we send some over to Middlesex for analysis.
Okay, great. In the recommendations I have for the council, one is, I guess, to the through the council president, is do you see the council passing a resolution or some sort of formal mechanism to ensure that there is accountability for the implementation of a plan that will ensure that we're as quickly as possible, removing the need for private water operators and getting rid of whatever challenges may have existed that brought us to this certain circumstance today. I know it's something I've asked the council for. It's something that you said might be something that can be done. Is that something that the council is prepared to do?
Well, I haven't talked about it with anybody, but not at this time.
Okay, I think that it's very important that there be a plan with benchmarks in place, and that there be accountability to the public and to what that plan is, and to the council for that plan. I think we're missing deadlines here, and if we don't set benchmarks, we can't evaluate. And maybe the deadlines are missed for reasonable reasons, but if we don't have a plan laid out, we can't really determine whether or not things are happening in a reasonable manner. So I think that's something that I would like to encourage the council to ask for that plan from the water director and regular reports on the implementation of that plan as it goes forward. I also would like to recommend that if we can't remove the indemnification clause for American Water that's in the MOU, where essentially they are removed of all liability for anything that goes wrong, it seems like. If they do something wrong, they should be held accountable for it, and it shouldn't be left to the city of New Brunswick to bear that burden for a private water operator, and mistakes that they make or their staff makes or other things. So I think that we should have the city attorney look at that language and make sure that we're just not letting them off the hook for something that may go wrong. And then I also am concerned because one of our licensed operators, or our water director, was hired away by the city, by American Water. I think there should be a clause in there that prohibits American Water from hiring New Brunswick staff for 2 years after the finalization of the contract to ensure that they are not continuing to recruit away quality staff people and making it more difficult for the city to actually leave the contract. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Bailey. I'm here on behalf of Muhammad Miles, number 85, 610 Hamilton Street. I'm the protocol director. I was asked to come down and thank the city for their help on the event that was held in Houston Park on August the 16th. It was held without incident. We didn't have any disturbances. I did have visitors from the city that came and made sure personally that I was okay, that things were going well. There were some stumbles in the road that I had, and I just wanted to thank those that jumped right to the defense, my defense, and helped me make those things happen. Councilman Fleming, City Clerk Teresi, Fire Director Ross, all those people made sure, Kevin Jones made sure that if I had an issue, they helped me to fix that so that we could make that day successful. And our minister and the believers from Mars 85 asked me to come down and to thank the city, and we hope to be able to make it a great event next year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thumbs down.
Yeah, I want to, off what she said. It was an excellent event, beautiful, no incidents, like I said, and, a lot of help. Councilman Fleming played a big part. I also want to, props too for, I missed I was out of town when they had MLK, I guess, street corner sign. I heard you did a great job, man. I heard you did, I heard you did a bad job, I say so. You did a good job, so, what I mean, it's great to hear that. Also, like, last meeting, I got ready for work, running late, but last meeting, me and you, we had a big, back and forth about the stance that Tom Lockton was taking as far as the water utility director and receiving a pay increase. And that was a few weeks ago, and I'm hoping that changed to date. Or is he still currently receiving the increase from being a water director while you're looking for a water director? And if you do find a water director, will that water director be hired and he still receive that increase?
Let me answer the questions. Yes, he's still receiving the pay increase, and it's not up to, the mayor decides when Tom Lockwood gets paid, not the city council.
Okay.
So if you want to know if he's still going to pay him the salary, you have to ask the mayor.
Okay.
Okay, because we don't regulate Mr. Lockwood's salary, that comes from the mayor's office.
Okay.
And yes, he's still getting paid that salary.
Okay. And my second question, if you find a water director for the water utilities position, will he still continue to receive the increase?
That is up to the mayor.
Okay.
It's up to the mayor.
Okay. My next question is, as a council president there, an elected official, do you agree with it?
Do I agree with it?
Yes.
Yes.
You do agree with it?
I agree with the mayor, yes. But the answer is yes.
Okay. Because me personally, I think that, in Tom Lockwood's position, he should set an example for the rest of the city. So, being at the count, I don't know if any of you guys have opportunity to do. Mr. Fleming, do you agree with it?
I agree that, I'm not even sure the exact amount that he gets, but I never agree or disagree. I think that people should be paid for what they are doing.
He's not doing anything.
I know, that's a matter of opinion. That's a matter. People tell us, let me just speak to the chair, people tell us that we earn a certain amount an hour, in our jobs here.
Right.
You know, and somebody can say, we don't do anything, we don't earn it. You know, that could be somebody's opinion. That could be somebody's personal opinion. And I can argue that what we do could be compensated a little bit more. But I don't make that argument. You know, it's for what I do, it's for what somebody else does. You know, that's, if people are going to school, if people have done what they're supposed to do, that's their just compensation.
Let me make this clear. Maybe I'm on another planet, breathing another type of air. If I get paid, say for instance, I get paid $100,000, right? That's my salary. I take on another position that takes me up to $120,000. I step down from that position, but still continue to get that $20,000 that allows me to go on vacation after 4 vacations a year. Do you agree with that? So take him out of the equation. If that was to happen, do you agree with that happening? Someone receiving a pay increase for work that they're not doing currently.
Mr. Pittman, the mayor feels. I'm just
not.
telling you. Who you asking, me or the?
All of you guys.
Oh, I'm answering. I'm the chairman here. The mayor feels that Mr. Lockland is worthy of the salary that he's receiving. Maybe Mr. Lockland he thought was underpaid at the time. Maybe he feels he's doing more work. He leads, he's the head of all the departments in this city. He is the administrator of the city. The mayor of the city of New Brunswick feels that he is worthy of the money that he's getting. That's his position. That's his position, and I have no problem with it.
I'm not.
Yes.
Brother,
Okay.
I think basically there's a range, but he can get paid.
Okay.
He is not at the highest,
Okay.
so he's still within that range, and that's up to the mayor.
But he specifically received an increase for this specific position that he's no longer operating. Okay, you guys, listen, wait. You guys agree? You guys agree? So if you agree to that, you must agree, because he is setting an example for the city. He's the city administrator. You must agree that if say for instance, if I was a sanitation worker, right? And if I'm looking at the example that I'm supposed to be, and say for instance I take the truck, you know, I come into work, I punch in, I take off, I come back 8 to 10 hours later, and I punch out. Do you agree to that? Do you agree that that's fair?
I don't understand the question.
If I work for the sanitation department,
You leave your
and
job.
I come, wait, I come, I punch in,
Right?
okay, then I hop in my personal vehicle, and I go off, and I take off for 8 to 10 hours away from the city. And then at the about 2:30, 3 o'clock, let me come back, and I come back into New Brunswick, I punch out, as if I worked an entire day, but I didn't do not one drop of work. Do you agree to a city employee doing something to that nature?
No.
Then how is he setting the example for the city? Because if you just said you agree, that's a double standard.
No, it's not. I
That's
don't agree with your definition of a double standard.
That's a
your
double
opinion.
standard.
That's your
That's a
opinion.
double. You think that he's more mightier than the people that bust their butt every day, day in and day out. You got guys getting back surgeries, knee surgeries, neck surgeries, hanging on. They're doing jobs that none of you guys want to do. But he gets this receipt, he gets treated as if he's a golden child or something. And the people that do the hardest work get treated like scum. Because you're saying that.
Mr. Pittman, I was a construction worker for 25 years. I've done a lot of hard work in my life. So don't tell me I haven't done any hard work. And I'm telling you before, that's your opinion, your analogy of what you described is not the same thing.
This is a fact. You made it a fact because you said I agree with Tom Loughlin receiving a pay increase for work he didn't do, but I don't agree with a city employee punching in and leaving and getting paid for work that they didn't do.
No, I didn't say that. You said that.
I tricked you into saying it.
No, you didn't. You tricked me into saying anything. I said that the mayor feels he's worthy of a salary.
So do you feel that a sanitation worker is worthy of doing that, getting paid for work that they're not going to do?
You just said leaving the city and coming back and punching the time clock and going in.
I made a scenario of a person under Tom Loughlin that gets paid for a job that they're not doing.
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree with that, but you do agree with him being paid for getting a job that he's not doing.
Mr. Pittman, I agree. The mayor feels that Tom Loughlin, salary is worth that of the business administrator. Okay? That's the salary he's getting.
Okay, I feel that you should hand in your resignation tonight
Thank you.
because you're ineffective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Crowell, I'd like to talk to you, but I just resigned.
All right. Mr. Council President,
Yes, Mr.
members of the
Brown.
council, real quick, where are the other 2 members of the council tonight?
None of your business. Why is that your business?
Excuse me, the clock is running while I'm not speaking.
All right, relax, but why is that any of your business or where the other 2 council people are?
Are they not elected officials?
What does that got to do with anything? What does that have to do with being an elected official and where they are tonight? That is a ridiculous question. Continue.
Duly noted. I think it's important that
You're-
people
you're-
attend these
you're-
meetings.
I
My
think-
attendance record for the record this
They're out
year is
distributing New Brunswick Today literature on the floor, that's where they're at. They're out peddling the paper for you.
Okay, tell them thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to ask a quick question on
Yes.
the ordinance for the raise for the crossing guards. When does that take effect?
You had your chance on the ordinances.
I'm
Now you
asking-
want to go back?
I want to know, when does it take effect? Is that a reasonable
That's
question?
a great question.
I think it's
Somebody give me
within
the
20
answer.
days of the mayor. The mayor has to sign it within 20 days.
But it
After
also
the mayor signs it, it's 20 days after that.
Okay, but it also says at the top, effective September 3rd, which is today. So which one is correct?
We're going to retroactive it. Can we do that, Mr. Lockman?
I think it was our intention to have the new pay scale in place for tomorrow's opening day, so I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's usually 20 days after passage, but I think it was our intention to get it.
We're trying to do it for September 3rd for the opening of the school season.
Okay, I just want to clarify, because it's contradicting
I
information.
know, you're good at that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I do want to correct 2 other things.
Yes.
Could you please ask the attorney present whether the mayor decides what Tom Laughlin makes, not the council, or whether the council has some say over what Mr. Laughlin makes?
Mr. Attorney?
The mayor has, Mr. Laughlin serves at the discretion of the mayor. The mayor decides on salaries within the salary range. The council ultimately votes on the salary, which is set by the mayor.
That's right. That's what he said.
Okay, but I just want to point out that the council does have some control over Mr. Laughlin's salary, and I want to say that I agree with Mr. Pittman that Mr. Laughlin should not be paid the increase in his salary for running a department that he's not running. And in fact, you said that, quote, he is the head of all the departments in the city, and I'd like to correct the record. He is the head of one department in the city. There are 10.
He is the supervisor, I believe, of all the department heads in some indirect way or direct way. Do you agree?
The de facto mayor.
I didn't say that. I said he's the de facto business administrator. You said the de facto mayor.
Well,
You said that, those are your words.
I know. Does he run all 10 departments, or does he run one department?
I said he's supervisor. I didn't say he runs any of them. He's the supervisor. I don't know why you gotta make a play on words.
So you said he's the head. There's 10 department heads, or I guess 8, but.
Okay, maybe I misspoke.
Okay.
I apologize.
I want to ask when the ethics complaint I filed will be heard. Does anybody here know about that?
It's my understanding that the ethics complaint filed by Mr. Crowell was forwarded by the clerk to the ethics committee, and that committee will have to meet and set a timetable, but I do not know the time frame with respect to when it will be heard. I know it has been transmitted.
Okay. Regarding 17 Mine Street, do the owners of that property, College Avenue Redevelopment Associates, do they pay taxes? Are they supposed to pay taxes?
I don't know that answer.
If it's not a tax exempt property, taxes will be paid on the property.
Well, I was given documents. Pardon me. I was given documents from the city clerks that say it is tax exempt, but I've never known an LLC to own a tax exempt property. Is that
Go on, Mr. Teresi.
Okay, the sale of the property is not yet caught up to the tax assessor.
Right.
Once it does, the taxes will be charged, the back-rated taxes will be charged on the property.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So some of these questions I've asked before in writing. I hope you checked your emails. Usually I ask the mayor's office, and then when I don't get an answer, I forward them to you. How many employees have left the water utility this year?
Do we have these answers from Mr. Gradival?
I believe 4.
4.
Is it true that a water utility employee had left unprofessional voicemails for his colleagues earlier this year in May?
I'm not clear on
No one's aware
what
of
you
that.
mean. No, I'm not aware of it. Unprofessional?
Yeah, foul language, angry, inappropriate.
Do you know which colleagues they were left for?
My understanding is that Mr. Smith received one or more of these messages before he resigned.
I'm not aware of any of this, Charlie. Is anybody from the city aware of any of this? No. No one's aware of it.
I asked about this, and I brought this up last year. Why does Mr. Laughlin, when he goes on vacation, turn off his email account so that it does not receive incoming messages?
Listen, I don't think he does it. I don't think this only happened once, but I'll have Mr. Lockton respond to that.
I attempt to put an away message when I go away on vacation so that emails don't sit there, that people know I'm away, and that in this particular instance, the most recent one that caused you to be so upset, my message to the IT office to have an away message put up was miscommunicated. We won't make that mistake again.
Thank you very much for that.
But I do find that it came up a little short of being horrendously unprofessional of me. I think that was your example. And again, I think you also referred to me as the de facto mayor. I'm not sure what you get out of saying that. Why would you refer to me as the mayor?
Listen,
Again,
it's okay. You guys, maybe he'll give you his personal email if it's over. Yeah, sure.
I do want to say that I wouldn't have used that language if this was the first time this was happening, but I brought this to Mr. Laughlin's attention last summer. I was very polite about it, and then to see it happen again was...
Okay, he said what he said. He said it's not going to happen again. We'll move forward.
Okay. I need to confirm, Mike Mahoney's still suspended without pay, Ed O'Rourke still suspended without pay.
Yes.
Yes.
Fire Director Rawls still not allowed to drive any vehicles on the job.
Yes.
Yes.
That's true. I've raised the issue of, why doesn't the city check the driving records of anyone before they get a take-home car?
Yes.
Is that something the city's considering doing?
What's that?
We consider everything.
Yes, we consider everything, especially if that comes from you. Mr. Lockton?
I don't know what extent I have the authority to get into someone's driving abstract. I've had this conversation with the law department a few times, and I think we remain unsettled about that. When we do issue someone a take-home car, there is some expectation that the person is capable of operating the vehicle and will be responsible about it. We understand that accidents happen, but I have not come to any sense of conclusion on whether or not we have the right to get into people's driving abstracts with the law department. I think I've answered that one too.
Okay. Understood. Respectfully, I just want to submit that it might be wise to make that a condition of giving someone a take-home car, is that they pull their own abstract. Everyone's entitled to go to NBC, get their own abstract. It's not hard to say, if you want the take-home car, you got to get me your abstract first. That's what I think we should be doing. Well, anything else is irresponsible.
Thank you. We'll certainly put that into consideration.
Thank you very much. I want to ask, how does the council feel about the red light camera on Easton Avenue? I know it has an uncertain future. The program will need to be renewed in December. Does the council want to see the program renewed? Do you support the red light camera program? Or would you like to see that camera taken down?
As someone who has received a red light camera, I
It's
would
$85.
want to take it down, but I don't know the situation that well, Mr. Crowell, I really can't comment on it. I think that whole situation has problems throughout the state of New Jersey. I think New Brunswick is not alone in the problems with red light cameras, there's people fighting it all over. And I don't even know if that would be what our decision will be, but we'll certainly look into that also. I think there's definitely some issues there that are being raised about the red light people, and I say stay tuned, because I think something will change.
Thank you. Does the council have any feelings about the business that we've engaged with, Red Flex? Their former CEO was indicted, the one who was in charge when we made the deal with them. It seems that they're in a mess of trouble. Why are we even still in business with them at all?
Well, but the attorney just said we have a contract with them, and I don't know how Red Flex even came to us. Mr. Goulden, I believe, left. So I can't respond to something I don't really know about, so I'll be honest with you.
Okay. I think it's very serious allegations.
You're right, it is, absolutely, 100%.
Indictments for bribery.
I agree.
But not
But not New Brunswick.
You don't know, there's nothing in New Brunswick, no bribery?
Mr. Anderson said
According to the reports, New Brunswick was fine and clean, it was not, no problem with us.
Okay. I need to ask about Director Rawls.
You just can't help it.
I know I have to, because the questions haven't been answered. I sent them through the proper channels.
All right, you're on 424. Go.
I see one. How many different vehicles has Director Rawls crashed? How many city vehicles has he crashed?
Does anybody know that answer?
More than one.
More than one.
That's all I can say at the moment. I don't know exactly.
Did he ever drive a fire truck?
I answered that question also. I don't know.
That's not the answer.
He doesn't know. We'll find out for you, though, Charlie. We'll get you the answer to that.
And I guess I'll just, end with a comment. I think that, the council needs to do a better job of hearing out the public. I think this computer with a countdown clock is not.
It's done everywhere. You ever been to the United States Congress? There's a clock there. Everywhere you go, everybody, it's a law. There's term limits on everybody's speech. Well, isn't that true? But we're not doing anything different here. We haven't heard the public here tonight. We're not giving the public a fair shake here tonight. I think you're absolutely wrong and incorrect in your statement. Thank you.
I think you've been combative with the public tonight.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think that the 5-minute rule is not necessary. I think
What
we only have
public have I been combative with besides you?
I'm saying, look at Jersey City. They just considered an ordinance about this type of thing. And there were some very good editorials and very good letters to the editor about why 5 minutes, for instance, for the entire agenda of resolutions is not enough time for people to make a point. And I would encourage you to not be so fierce with your enforcement of this rule. As you can see on the rule itself, it says that at the discretion of the council president, you can give people more time than 5 minutes. Please don't be so fierce with us. We come from the same community. We're all here for a good reason, because we want to help. Thank you.
Time up. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would like to know about the liquor store. I talked to the, what's his name?
Who?
He's on vacation.
Bill Hamilton?
I think
City
so.
attorney? Yeah, he'll be back.
And I talked to him, and I got the pictures in my camera, so I really wants to.
Okay, when he comes back from vacation, we can contact him.
Okay.
All right.
Next meeting, because I would like to know that they keep drinking in front of the liquor store.
Okay.
They buy the beer and they still drink in public. I saw Sunday was a police officer pull over one guy because he had two open cans. The other side at Seymour, in the corner. 2 officers were there. I just would like to know, can you please tell the liquor store something about the open beer? They keep open.
Right.
They buy the beer, but they keep opening in front of the liquor store.
Okay.
So what can you do to, 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 to,
We'll send Captain Miller, the liquor store speaking up, you know where it is?
On French Street?
No.
Remsen?
On Ransom, between Renton and Seymour. I'd like to know what.
He will let the patrol people know about open containers on that property here.
No, but they keep barking, they
I heard that.
buy the beer there.
I know.
And then
He's gonna let them know.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bruce Newling, 47 Huntington Street. In the city code, 2.92.160, titled Basis of Original Appointments - Qualifications, it opens with the words, all candidates for probationary or permanent employment with the city are residents of the United States and residents of the city for a period of at least 1 year prior to the date of appointment. And these appointees or employees remain residents of the city throughout the course of their employment with the city. Now, it's come to my attention, perhaps I should use the language, it is alleged that, and unfortunately the Parks Superintendent, Mr. Ishmael Montanez, has left, and so is not here to answer directly, but perhaps Mr. Locke, have you used up all that time already? Use that, perhaps Mr. Loughlin knows. It's my understanding that when Raymond Dominguez was hired to work in the Parks Department, though he lives out of town, actually, in, I believe, Phillipsburg. And Mr. Raymond Dominguez is of special interest because it turns out he is, allegedly, the nephew of Mr. Ishmael Montanez, and also the nephew of Rebecca Escobar, the City Council President. There is also hired in the Parks Department Mr. Carlos Perez, who lives in North Brunswick. Now, the city ordinance does provide for employing people from outside the city limits if no qualified person within the city can be found to fill that position. The city engineer is an example of that. He lives in Dunellen, but he's working here in the city, presumably because there's no suitable engineer available within the city limits. Now, I would like to know whether the position that Mr. Raymond Dominguez and Mr. Carlos Perez occupy, whether that position was advertised, and who the other applicants for those positions were. Now, I don't know whether, obviously, Mr. Loughlin is here to clarify whatever he knows. It's unfortunate, as I say, that neither Ms. Escobar or Mr. Montanez is here to provide the information, but perhaps Mr. Loughlin could tell us.
Mr. Loughlin, do you have anything on this information?
I have no idea who Ramon Dominguez and Carlos Perez are related to. As we said before, we do our best to hire New Brunswick people. I don't think the language that you speak of in the ordinance, I trust that it's still there. I don't know if it's still timely or appropriate. As you know, we do not have the right to tell our police officers and our firefighters where to live after they have been hired. That may be antiquated language. But as I sit here, I do not know where Ramon Dominguez lives or Carlos Perez lives, and I'd have to go back through files and refresh my memory when they were hired, how they came to us, who was considered at the same time.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, for the record, I am formally requesting that these appointments be investigated. I specifically want to know what advertisements were placed before the public. I want to know what other applicants were considered for these jobs.
Okay.
And I want to know what special skills these people who were hired had that were superior to the skills that other applicants offered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Nolan, can I suggest you put that in the form of an Oprah request?
A what?
Can I suggest you put it in the form of an Oprah request?
If
Or at least write down your,
is it enough if I just send you a letter with that?
Sure.
Yes, can you send something in writing to that effect, please?
Yes, I'll
Thank
send
you
Mr.
very much.
Lockman a letter requesting that information.
Thank you, Mr. Newell.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to comment, public comment tonight? Anybody else? Seeing none?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Council Vice President Egan.
Yes.